Modern Counter-Strike has a huge emphasis put into the diffusable game mode, and the current suite of maps in Counter-Strike 2 really favours those who want to play those maps. But what about the rest of us who love the original Counter-Strike game mode, Hostage Rescue? These are the forgotten hostage maps of Counter-Strike. Siege was created by the late Justin de Jong, also known as Nothing, not to be confused with the professional Counter-Strike player Nothing. The original version of the map was released with the very first beta of Counter-Strike, and is set in a facility carved out of a mountain with the goal of the counter-terrorists being to rescue some prisoners of war who were being held within the compound. As the story goes, Nothing first caught the eye of Jess Cliff after winning a Team Fortress Classic mapping contest held by PC Gamer, and was given pre-beta access to make a map to be included with Beta 1.0. Even though the resulting map is still very T-sided, many considered the map to be one of the best and most viable hostage maps ever made due to the fact that the CTs actually had multiple points of entry, including a winding sewer under the prisoner of war compound. Over the years, many changes had been made to the map, although most changes over the years were reverted to be more similar to the original version, with the newer textures still intact, of course. One of the more popular changes that people loved to mention in my comments was the drivable APC at the CT spawn, which was included in Beta 7.1. The point of the APC was to give the CTs a way to get closer to the facility without getting shot the moment that they first rounded the corner. It might have been half decent if you could actually see where you were going when you drove the thing. Sadly, Nothing took his life on December 7th, 2000 at age 18, but his legacy was not forgotten as many versions of Siege have been made over the years. In 2009, Morrows released a reimagined version of Siege, which eventually was released under the name Siege 2010. The facelift saw the facility be set in a snowy mountain at dusk. The map was well received with good reason, as the remake truly felt like it was made with love and passion behind it. In 2012, Morrows once again worked with 3DNJ to recreate Siege, this time for the newly released Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The map setting was changed from being inside a mountain to being in an industrial warehouse in a jungle somewhere. The map's layout was also slightly changed to address some of the balance issues that made it hard for the CTs to infiltrate the compound, especially once the T-side had access to sniper rifles. Another change is that the elevator from the old versions of the map was completely removed. The map was also included in Operation Bravo in September 2013, and while the map was enjoyed during this time, the map never made an official return to the map pool. The map has been kept alive though by the CSGO and CS2 skin community, as the lighting of the map has proved to be perfect for inspecting skins. We can only hope that a brand new remake for CS2 is released and its legacy is continued for many more years to come. Assault is probably one of the most T-sided hostage maps in Counter-Strike history, and yet it's also one of the most loved maps. It was first added to Counter-Strike in Beta 1.1, June 27, 1999, and while the original version of the map is very similar to how it ended up, there are several small changes that were made that had a huge impact on how the map was played. Firstly, you may have noticed in the original, the bridge is blocked off by a police blockade, and the road under the bridge here is also blocked off. There's also no cover when trying to enter the warehouse through the back door, making this a very risky entry point. Out front, there's also only one way to get on top of the roof of the warehouse, as this ladder and this stack of freight containers isn't there. Other changes inside include the ramp to get on the walkway rather than a ladder. The vent system is a straight line with no deviation, and the hostages don't have their own room, and instead they hang out by the security cameras so they can watch as their saviors come to rescue them, or they watch as they die when approaching the warehouse. When Beta 6.0 rolled out in March 2000, we got the final update to the classic version of Assault that is still available to play in 1.6 to this day. The map obviously isn't perfect, but it's still full of charm. For example, both the CTs and the Ts have access to fully functioning CCTV cameras. The Ts access their cameras here and can see outside the warehouse, while the CTs can see inside the warehouse by using the CCTV inside their van. If someone were to shoot the satellite dish on top of the van, it does disable the CT cameras. The dish will respawn in the next round. However, the CTs will not be able to access the cameras unless the map is reloaded. There's also this weird sign out the front of the warehouse that claims that this is the Blago Corp supply depot and it is located on 72th Street. When Counter-Strike Source released, we were blessed with a new version of Assault to enjoy. The security camera system was removed, but a new entrance directly onto the second floor from the alleyway was added to the map. The visuals were completely overhauled, and the setting of the map was changed from night to day. This is probably because Valve wanted to show off how good their lighting in the Source engine was at every possible opportunity. As you expect, everywhere is cluttered with some very saucy version of the props, which in this case can be seen as a positive, as the props really help to give the CTs a little bit more cover as they try and take control of the warehouse. Though I will admit it's a little odd considering how much effort they put into the exterior areas, seeing as most of the fighting actually takes place inside the warehouse or within eyesight of the entrance points. Like, does this little alleyway in CT spawn serve any purpose other than to just have a random spot to hide in? And because the Global Offensive version is based on the Source version, the useless alleyway returns. The big difference in the Global Offensive version, and possibly the best addition to Assault in the history of all of mankind, is the skylights. Unfortunately, the glass is frosted, so you do need to give them a couple of shots first, but once you do, you can peek inside with a scoped weapon and try and pick off a camping T or two before you and a team infiltrate the warehouse. This makes it less T-sided, but anyone who's ever played a 10 vs 10 casual game on this version of Assault knows that there is absolutely no such thing as balance, even with this. If Valve seems to think that fleshing out the exterior of the warehouse and making it look beautiful would entice the Ts to rush outside and fight more, they couldn't have been more wrong. A better idea would have been for them to leave a comment on this video, just like you should too. On the flip side of things, Insertion by Oskmos is the perfect example of a hostage map where it benefits the Ts to push on the map and get some map control rather than sitting in a corner and waiting for the CTs to enter the room and try to catch them off guard. It was first introduced as an official map into Counter-Strike Global Offensive in Operation Breakout in July 2014, and was almost instantly a hit. For those of you who were unlucky enough to never play this masterpiece of a map, the map is a non-linear open world where the CTs have the choice of spawn points by standing in one of the 4 different quadrants that are marked A, B, C, or D. These coincide with the letters that are on the map that is crudely drawn on this whiteboard. The map is set in a forest by a lake in Sweden, and sees the CTs infiltrating different buildings such as a barn, a boathouse, or even a quaint little home. While the map does have 4 insertion points, it only has 1 rescue zone, which is located at the helicopter insertion point. As the map is so large, the map is covered in a thick fog. This helps to stop snipers and scoped weapons from being a little too overpowered, but if you did ever want to play this map against bots, be warned, as they aren't actually affected by the fog. But sometimes, even the best of maps have issues, and during its inclusion in the operation, there was a treehouse that, if anyone climbed up, it would tank the performance of the map for everyone on the server. And sometimes the game would even lock up and you would have to wait nearly 10 seconds for the next round to start. With those bugs in mind, Oskmos started work on a sequel, aptly titled Insertion 2, in around 2015. But the map wasn't released until early 2021 and was then included in Operation Riptide later that year. Those of us who play hostage maps instantly fell in love with the map, which is set in a small, snowy Swedish village rather than a forest this time. And the map was complete with a supermarket, train station, pizzeria, and even an office building. Insertion 2 takes everything that was cool about Insertion and makes it better in every way. The radar is clearly labelled with the spawn zones, so even if you didn't have the time to read the briefing on the board before deploying, you can quickly determine your next point of attack. The map is also much better visually, as all the previously mentioned locations are very fleshed out and feel like they're lived in places, mainly because they are based on real locations. As much as I have fonder memories of playing the original Insertion back in the day, it's not hard to admit that Insertion 2 is the better map of the two, and if either were going to make a return, I would much prefer to see Insertion 2. Havana is one of the most loved and hated hostage maps in Counter-Strike history, depending on which game you played it on. The map was originally added in Counter-Strike 1.4, April 24th, 2002, and is set in the city of Havana in Cuba. The T's are holding political hostages, awaiting a chopper to evacuate them, while the CTs are somehow gained perimeter control of the compound, are attempting to infiltrate and rescue said hostages. There are several entrances the CTs can use to enter the compound, with these apartments marked 1, 2, and 3, at least they are in the original version and the Condition Zero version of the maps. The big notable change in Condition Zero is that the lighting has been changed from a dark, gloomy sky to a bright, sunny sky. This lighting change also happens to be brought forward into the source version of the map, but that's where the positives for the source version seem to end, and where the hatred and frustration for the map begins. The map, for whatever reason, has been upgraded, with random paths and windows being blocked off randomly at the start of every single round. So the path you took this round might not be available in the next round, making the idea of coming up with a strategy or plan of attack in an online game pretty much impossible. Another big issue is with the bots, as the bots' nav mesh is pre-programmed with every path being a possibility, so they can often be found running into and jumping into a wall or a door that they think is open when it really isn't. When you add this to the fact that the map itself is already a bit of a labyrinth, it's no wonder why Source players felt frustrated and would rock the vote at the first chance they could get, and the lack of the love for the Source version probably played a big part into why this once classic and loved map evolved to die and never be brought forward into Global Offensive. While there are so many more classic hostage maps, for now, we'll just leave it here. Let me know in the comments which old hostage maps are your favourites, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already while you're at it. Thank you all for watching, and as always, take care.